Is the British Royal Navy keeping a record of every sea monster sighting they've ever seen? Would you take a cursed Bulgarian number? What's biting kids under the waves of an Indiana lake? And teen wolves terrify Texas? It's all coming up on Weird Things TV! This June 4th, 2010 edition of the program. I'm Justin Robert Young, editor of WeirdThings.com. I don't know the last time you cracked open a textbook, but the British Royal Navy has been sailing around for a really long time. And if you have all these people out there, and there's crazy stuff in the water, wouldn't it stand to reason that if they saw something crazy, like, I don't know, a sea monster, or a kraken, or a giant squid, or something that looked like Kirby from the Kirby video game, that they'd write it down and report it back to the Royal Naval Office, and there'd be some record room, maybe deep in the bowels of what looks to be a pretty nondescript building, and it would have like 4 rubber bands around it, and it kind of have tea stains and maybe a tartar sauce smear, and it would just be like parchment and dot matrix printouts, all sorts of nutty stuff, right? And it would just be every report of a sea monster ever in British Royal Naval history. Wouldn't that stand to reason? Well, it doesn't exist. That's according to a Freedom of Information Act request that was put in by a marine biologist who asked if such a thing existed. And the Navy wrote back and said, nah, no. I mean, people can write in, but like, we don't have a folder for it. After all, that would require getting a folder. Doesn't it seem like a total waste of money? After all, the British government does keep track of UFO sightings. There actually are sea monsters. Have you seen documentaries? Like these things. They are bizarre. They're out there. They're under the waves and they're ring, 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 cursed Bulgarian phone. That's according to a press release by a Bulgarian telecom which says that the number 0888-888-888 will be discontinued because the last 3 people to have it have died suddenly. Yeah. The first was the CEO of the company who died of cancer. That number then went to a mob boss who was murdered in Amsterdam in a hail of bullets. And then that number went to another mob boss who was also murdered. What if this leads you to a life of crime? And if it wasn't cursed, why would they take it off the market? By the way, how is this a Bulgarian number, not a Japanese number? How pissed off are the Japanese that they don't have this number? This is like every Japanese horror movie ever. I couldn't decide what the third story was going to be on this edition of Weird Things TV, so I'm going to do 2 of them really, really quickly. Indiana Lake. Check that thing out. Totally sweet. Summer's coming up. Grill a few burgers, pop a couple brewskis, let your kids go run in there, splash about. Only one problem, Popo. The kids are getting eaten. And by eaten, I mean bitten. And by bitten, I mean that. Look how big that mouth has to be to wrap around that little girl's leg. She was bleeding, bruised, screaming, yelling. People think it might be some kind of gigantic fish. Maybe it's a catfish. Maybe, here's my one theory, boom, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And finally, teen werewolves of Grip, Texas. Yeah, look at these kids. They wear contacts, they have fangs, and they have tails like out of their pants. They call themselves the Wolf Pack. They're not emo, they're not goth. They're a whole new breed of emo/goth/werewolves. It's a pretty harmless story that was done by this local news station, but there is one really, really, really cool element to it. The lead wolf, as he's described, Wolfie Blackheart, initially drew attention because a local dog went missing, and eventually the dog's skull was in Wolfie's possession. Yowza, yowza, yowza. That about wraps it up for this edition of Weird Things TV. If you liked it, please subscribe, folks. It's a fun time for everybody. And you know what? Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Because we're just trying to get our sea legs here. We don't know what we're doing. I want to have a dialogue with you people, okay? It's not just me up here yelling and screaming crazy stuff into your face. No, we're talking. We're friends. I love you. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it is WeirdThingsCom. If you want to go to our website and read about all sorts of stuff that we don't talk about here, it is WeirdThings.com. Until next week, people, I'm Justin Robert Young. Stay weird.